Well, I think we're going to go ahead despite our technical difficulties and get started in the interest of time, because I know everyone has a lot on their plate and a lot on their schedules. John Henderson is with us, but he's actually traveling, so he'll be signing back in, I think, once he gets in his vehicle. And he does have a driver, just so you know. He's not Eventbriting and Zooming while he's driving. So he'll be joining us again shortly here. This has been a little bit of a challenge because we switching over to using our own Zoom service, which in the past we had been borrowing on other individuals. And so this was something we needed to get going to get on our own Zoom link. So please bear with us. I know there'll be a few more people, I suspect, signing on as we get going here with the meeting. And I appreciate your patience, and our technological ineptness is showing here, but we're doing the best we can. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I do want to say that we are truly blessed to have a presenter here today by the name of David Morrow. Many of you probably know David, but by way of an introduction, David is the director of PFA here in Minnesota. David oversees the PFA, the Prison Fellowship Academy at Lino Lakes. We've got some alumni there of former directors and whatnot here as well. So should be a good meeting. PFA, which was initially started out as IFI, or Interfaith Freedom Initiative, at Lino Lakes, has been there for many years and has been providing services and assisting people as they are going through a recovery, reentry, and through the prison system and back into the community. And so PFA has a track record of a lot of success. And I think that's really due to the leadership that has been provided through the many years at the Prison Fellowship Academy. David comes with 15 years of working with a variety of nonprofits and faith-based organizations, and organizations with a heart to care and to help people in their journeys to recovery and to reentry. And so he has a great deal of experience. He also is a graduate of Bethel University as well as Denver Seminary. And so he has a very firm faith and grounding in his Christian faith, and he brings that to PFA as well. And we know that that is a real key to the success of the many men and women who come through Prison Fellowship Academy. A little bit more about David is he is married. He has 3 children that he's raising, and he did mention something about golf, but I do know that that's getting quickly starting to fade here with the oncoming snow here. So I know he'll probably, hopefully, get an opportunity to get somewhere warm and do a little golfing this year as well. So a couple of housekeeping items that I want to talk about before we get David keyed up here. He does have a PowerPoint that he is going to share with us. We want to have people put their questions into the chat, if you would please, so that, and make them available to everyone. I'll monitor the questions as they come in, and then we will use those questions at the end of David's presentation. And then if there is some additional time at the end, people who have announcements for their organizations, we'll let you folks get on with those announcements as well. And I am going to be recording the meeting, so just so folks know, I'll be hitting the record button as he goes through his presentation, so that we will have it available for a later date as well. So with that, I will not delay any longer. I will turn it over to David, and let's see, hopefully this will transition quickly.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. Good to see everybody. I mean, if there's anything I know about Zoom from the last year and a half, something isn't going to work right. So we'll just see how this goes here. I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint and we'll see what happens. All right. Give me a thumbs up if you guys can see that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Great.
David, just real quickly, I'm
yeah.
having a little trouble trying to get the record going here.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. It says I have to ask everyone for permission. So I'm asking for permission to record, but I don't know how that's going to change anything here. So we may not get this recorded, but we can get your PowerPoint if need be, if people request it, I assume.
Ron,
Absolutely.
this
Yes.
is Mary.
Hi, Mary.
When I came on, I got the message that recording was in progress, and the little thing at the top of the screen looks like it is recording already.
Okay, good. Then maybe John set that up before he left. So then we're good. Thank
All
you
right.
very much. I will be quiet and let David get going.
All right. Well, good to be with everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and to share with you a little bit about what's going on inside Lino Lakes and what's going on at Prison Fellowship Academy. I've been with Prison Fellowship not very long now, so I started at the end of January with them, and prior to that, for the last 12 or 13 years, was working with Union Gospel Mission as the director of the chaplains department there, and see some familiar faces on here. I see Tom Lundquist on there, who invited me to a golf tournament, which, as was noted, I will always say yes to golf tournaments. So good to see everybody, and looking forward to just spending a little bit of time sharing what we're doing in the academy, what things are looking like inside of Lino Lakes right now. I know for a number of people on this call, pre-COVID, coming into a prison was a pretty common experience and a place for ministry, and we're certainly hopeful that we're rounding the corner on being able to invite volunteers back in and allow for more people to be engaging there. So as Ron mentioned, the Prison Fellowship Academy is the kind of central component of what Prison Fellowship as a whole does inside prisons. Let's see if this is, here we go. So if you're, I think most people on here are pretty familiar with Prison Fellowship, but just so to kind of get everybody on the same page, Prison Fellowship is the nation's largest Christian nonprofit serving prisoners, former prisoners, and their families. For more than 40 years, Prison Fellowship has been making prisons safer and more rehabilitative, supporting children and families affected by incarceration, and advancing criminal justice reforms. What I think is unique about what Prison Fellowship tries to do is to look at the realities of incarceration and deal with it from as many angles as we possibly can, from the angle of working with incarcerated individuals, which is primarily done through Prison Fellowship Academy, but also looking at it from the angle of those affected by incarceration. So many people are familiar with the Angel Tree program that Prison Fellowship oversees, which both is during Christmas time, but also includes camps for children of incarcerated individuals and sports camps. But then we also have an angle to what we do, which is really focused on doing leadership development and training for the leaders inside of prison. So working with wardens around the US and taking them through our warden exchange program that is a cohort-based model to reimagine what prison culture could look like. And then along with that, we have a number of criminal justice initiatives and advocacy work that we do both in Washington, D.C. and at the state level in a number of states, really with the goal that we think that there are more humane and just ways to deal with incarceration and sentencing policies, and really trying to look at it from a lot of different angles. So that's kind of the big picture of Prison Fellowship. What I'm going to spend the majority of my time just sharing with you is kind of what things look like in the academy itself, and in particular, some of which is specific to Lino Lakes, some of which is specific, more general to a number of the other academies that Prison Fellowship runs throughout the United States. So the first thing that we normally talk about within Prison Fellowship is what the challenge is. And I think many of us are familiar with the primary challenge being 2.1 million men and women incarcerated in the United States, which is we've got the rest of the world beat easily on that. And so the question is, how do people change within the context of prison? And does prison culture impact change? What we've found, and what I know I have been learning very quickly as I, prior to working for Prison Fellowship, spent time in prisons, but working in them is a whole different animal, and working with the Department of Corrections and trying to navigate what does change look like, and how do you speak into the cultural makeup of an individual prison with the hope that there can be this transforming influence in this place that can start with the individuals that are incarcerated, and then hopefully start moving beyond just the unit where maybe the academy participants are in, and then moving on to the correctional officers that are here and beyond. So we really believe that if you change the culture of a prison, you can actually change culture because of the amount of people affected by it and what that looks like when incarcerated individuals are returned home. So that's kind of our basic question we're looking at. Our goal in the academy, at its core, we talk about our goal as good citizenship. That our goal is to build communities and create opportunities for men and women in prison to practice and develop values that transform them and others into good citizens. Now, if you looked at our logic model of how we do what we do, the core thing that undergirds all of what we do and the values that we're working with and promoting in the academy is rooted in biblical principles and a biblical worldview. And we think that when those start to flesh out in practice, that's going to lead to values that move towards good citizenship. This is also one of the ways that that allows us to be a unabashedly Christian nonprofit in Department of Corrections throughout the United States. So we currently have over 100 Prison Fellowship academies running in the United States. There's a distinction that we have between tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 academies, which is just our way of talking about whether those academies are staffed or volunteer based or have multiple cohorts of classes running at any given time. But our goal within the next 3 or 4 years is to have at least one men and one women's academy running in every state in the United States. So that's the goal we're working towards in the next few years. So our approach, how we do this, our academy builds communities and creates opportunities for men and women in prison to practice and develop the values of good citizenship. What this means is that we do this through 3 different avenues, because we don't believe that it's enough to just get guys into a classroom or get women into a classroom and share information, but that has to both be combined with compassionate coaches or counselors or academy managers, and then given an opportunity to practice this. So all of our memorandums of understanding that we have with correctional institutions require that there's a housing unit that individuals in our program are living in together. And so they're practicing the different things that are a part of the academy curriculum in their housing unit, where they spend way more time than they do in any of the programming or curriculum that we're doing. So it's really this 3-stranded approach to have curriculum that is both biblically rooted and also immensely practical. And we'll talk a little bit about what that curriculum is in particular going forward. So here's some of that curriculum. There's a lot on this slide, so I'm not going to go through all of it, but it really looks at what are some of the key barriers that get in the way of individuals leaving the academy and leaving prison and being successful on the outside. So there's a number of things that we believe are keys for life around empathy and navigating emotions and doing some active listening skills and time management and finances. And so all of these we're giving a lot of practical opportunities for individuals in the academy to see what does it look like to actually listen to somebody when you're frustrated and disagreeing with them. So like for instance, yesterday we had a class where it was we had to find two people who were immensely passionate about the belief that LeBron James is the greatest player of all time. And then we had somebody else come up who was immensely passionate that Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time. And what they had to do is one person had to stand in front of the other person and listen to them give the argument for why LeBron is the best. And then all they could do was reflect back everything they heard rather than jump back with their argument. It's these practical skills of how do you start to listen rather than just get all driven by your frustration or emotion or your anger. And so to provide practical opportunities to do that is really critical within the context of not just what does it look like on the other side of the fence, but what does it look like walking back to the unit and figuring out how to navigate even more important conversations than that one in a way that's going to be healthy and life-giving and lead towards practices that will be sustainable over the long run. And then we have curriculum connected with our values of good citizenship. These are our 6 core values that are rooted into pretty much everything we do around prison fellowship, around community, affirmation, productivity, responsibility, restoration, integrity. And these are plastered all over the place and an integral part of everything that we do when we talk about what our values are and what good citizenship looks like. We do an alpha course. We still go through the boundaries material here. We have trauma-informed practices that we do around anchoring individuals in their emotions and really trying to be present with what they're feeling so that they can act in a way that's connected with how they feel rather than just act and then realize they were angry after. So some of those types of areas of curriculum also. And then compassionate coaches. This is our goal is that when individuals are in the academy, and the vast majority of our academies around the United States have one staff person that is walking a cohort of 30 to 40 individuals through the academy for 12 months. Lino Lakes is a little unique in that it's a little larger than some of the other academies around the United States, where at any given time we have 4 different cohorts running simultaneously in different parts of the program. And so we have counselors that are leading each of the cohorts. And at Lino Lakes, at least, like right now, there's about 170 individuals that are actively engaged in Prison Fellowship Academy, either in one of the cohorts in the first 12 months or academy graduates that are doing mentoring and leading studies inside the unit. So during that 12 months, each of the participants will meet one-on-one with one of the Prison Fellowship staff members, where they'll be talking through areas in the curriculum, what's going on inside the prison, what's going on outside the prison, what's going on with their family. There's a lot of discipleship work happening in these contexts, and helping guys think about what does this process look like connected with your relationship with God and your relationship with others and relationship in the unit. And then that final section is about restorative communities, where it's really meant to be a community in the housing unit where the academy participants are living, where they can be practicing what we're teaching and what's being taught both in the unit and at the academy building. So it's a cohort model. So we have individuals all in programming together. They're co-housed. There's formation groups, which are groups of 3 to 5 individuals who are walking the journey together and are meeting weekly to process different aspects of their life or aspects of the curriculum. And then we have community meetings, which are during COVID has been a challenge just based on restrictions of how many people can be in a room together. But we're able to, at this point, have close to 100 guys in the room together for our community meetings, and which is a combination of the Prison Fellowship band playing and testimonies and celebrations and certificates and competitions and skits and just a time for the community to own what does it look like for us to grow and do some kind of self-policing work around what's working and what's not working in the community, knowing that that's the kind of work that needs to be done both inside prison and on the outside. So that's how we do what we do. And then finally, how the Academy works. It is, as I mentioned, it's cohorts of 35 to 45 men or women housed in the same living unit. It is unique in prison treatments or programs because it's voluntary in nature. So nobody's getting mandated to be a part of the Academy. So individuals are applying for it in a given, we bring in a new Academy class every 3 months, and on average, we have about 150 to 200 applications for the 40 slots of guys that we can bring in. So we are grateful and thankful that there's certainly a stream of individuals that are seeking to be a part of the Academy and be engaged in a healthy community. And there's no religious preference required for individuals coming into the Academy. We are unabashedly Christian and rooted in biblical values and a biblical worldview. But it's not a requirement of anybody to either be a Christian or become a Christian to successfully complete the program. So we believe that there are going to be a lot of opportunities for individuals to encounter a relationship with God and encounter Christ while in the program. But there's nothing about being in the program that requires that. And then we just have some requirements of how much time individuals have left. So most of the time individuals will need at least 14 months remaining in prison to complete the program. Oftentimes it'll be quite a bit more than that at Lino Lakes, because a lot of times guys are coming here and then moving on to other treatment programs at Lino Lakes. And so this is kind of an overview of what this involves, much of which we've talked a little bit about, but our Tier 2 Academy, which in many ways, Lino Lakes is defined as 4 Tier 2 academies, all located at the same spot, because we have 4 cohorts running at the same time. But it's a 12 to 14 month residential program with daytime classes facilitated by our staff here, and then evening classes with volunteers, which has been, for those of you that have done some volunteering at prison, has been quite the challenge over the last 18 months. So at least in Minnesota, volunteers are still not able to come inside to Minnesota correctional facilities. We're at least being given indications that is going to be changing within the next couple months. So that's a huge part of what we do and something that we are anxiously anticipating being able to resume. And so historically, we would have volunteers in here on Monday evening running a Celebrate Recovery class. We had a group of guys coming in Tuesday evenings to run an Authentic Manhood class. We'd have a number of external reentry partners on Wednesdays. We'd have mentors coming in working with guys. So it's really a critical part of what we do and something that we are anxiously awaiting the return of. And so our daytime classes are 3 hours long. We meet, it says here we meet 3 times a week. At Lino Lakes, we meet Monday through Friday, so it's 5 days a week for the individuals at Lino Lakes. But at the majority of our Tier 2 academies, it's 3 days a week that they're meeting. And then it's over 500 hours of class, which includes classroom time, small group time, peer mentorship, individual coaching, developing a life plan, and working with some strategic reentry partners that we do also. And this is just kind of an overview map. As you can see, the logo for Prison Fellowship Academy there is the blue circle with a mountain and a flag, because we recognize that the journey of transformation and change can have that same feeling of like looking at a mountain range, and it looks like I can see the top of it, but when you start climbing it, you realize there's all those other mountains and hills and valleys in order to actually get to the peak. And so we really believe that there is a goal in mind, but that it's gonna be experienced with a lot of ups and downs and fits and starts. And so the vision for the academy journey when individuals come in starts with that reflecting R. So we have these 4 R's here, and it's really doing that deep work around what's the identity that I have? Who am I? What am I? What's my purpose in life? What is the calling that God has on me? What are the things that have short-circuited that in many ways? And it's being able to think deeply and slowly in order to actually get to questions of what has God made me to do? Like, what are my gifts? What are my passions? What's the heart that God has given me? And which in many ways leads from reflect to reset to rethinking how our emotions play into the decisions that have been made and the decisions that are going to be made. So it's about a transforming of the mind, as Paul would say in Romans, to reset some of those neural pathways that have gotten maybe set in line over the years in a way that is antithetical to either good citizenship or a life that is consistent with the values and heart of Jesus. And so there's a lot of curriculum connected with that. And then it's also about relating, making right choices with people and places. It's coming up with a life plan of who are the people that are going to lead you back here where you don't want to be. And who are where are the places that if you go there, you've been there enough to know how that's going to go. And so working with individuals in our program to come up with plans related to release and then moving on to restore, of moving forward and planning for my future. So our 4th quarter, we spend a lot of time processing what is it going to look like to find a job? What is it going to look like to find housing? What is it going to look like to find a positive community that's going to lead towards long-term transformation rather than short-term recidivism? And this is just a visual of kind of the components of the academy experience, most of which we've talked about, but it's mostly just to say that the academy is much more than about curriculum guys are coming to. It's about an experience in a community. It's about an engagement with volunteers. It's about giving back to the community through service projects, which show up in a lot of different ways here, whether it's a couple weeks ago, a class decided they wanted to do a fundraiser for a children's hospital. And so raised, I think $500 or $600 that they were raising in the unit to give to a children's hospital. I remember receiving a check from prior to being involved with Prison Fellowship Academy that came to Union Gospel Mission when I was working there, that was from the academy participants. And so it's trying to think outside of an antisocial perspective to how do I, like, what is my pro-social engagement with the community that I am in? And so this is really the backpack of the things that we're trying to do and opportunities we're trying to give to individuals in the academy. And then, as I mentioned, one of the cores of how we do what we do are the values of good citizenship, which is about replacing negative attitudes and behaviors with something else. And for those of you that have spent any time inside of a prison, what is more common than anything else is that when your name gets called, it's not a good thing. And we really want to be the type of community where when people are being called out, they're being called out for different attitudes and behaviors that are helping the community. So we every week at our community meeting give out 5 to 10 what we call values in action certificates, where we're catching people doing the right stuff. So it's if somebody is seen in the unit as living out integrity, and so they're owning up to the places where they're falling short. They're trying to keep things out in the open, and so our counselors will honor them in front of the group to say, we see something in you that is different. We see something in you that is transforming. We see something in you that is exemplifying what we need in our community, both in prison and outside of prison. And then the peers inside of the unit in the academy are also giving out those same certificates. So they're honoring individuals that they're seeing in the housing unit who are living this out, with the goal that everybody's getting called out, not just for when they're messing up, but for when they're exemplifying what good behavior needs to be happening also. And so coming up to the end here, but participants will spend time learning, practicing new skills, pursuing meaningful goals, living in community, building healthy relationships, growing in positive peer role models. And so we, especially as individuals get further on in their academy journey, they end up taking on more leadership responsibilities. They do more mentoring with individuals in the program. They can serve and lead classes or Bible studies inside the housing unit, all of which being the goal of preparing, knowing that the vast majority of individuals showing up in prisons are leaving. And so wanting to be a part of preparing guys for success on the way out. And in addition to equipping people to succeed when they leave prison, we help foster a culture of change within prison by providing tools and support for prison leadership. I'd mentioned this specifically related to our warden exchange program, where we run cohorts of wardens through year-long programs related to leadership development and reimagining what incarceration and prison environments could look like. And this is a testimony from one of our graduates, Robbie, who just said being a part of the academy is huge if you're willing and wanting a new life and to be different than who you used to be. It's a great opportunity for you to surrender who you are and develop this new character in your life. And I'm going to leave some time for questions. I'll leave this last slide up here, which is just my contact information. If there is ever any way that I can help in either connecting the work that you're doing with the work of Prison Fellowship or with the organization you're in around reentry or partnership in any way, we'd love to have that conversation. We are anxious to be able to be welcoming some of our long-term and long-time reentry partners back into Lino Lakes and to get in front of our guys and really cast the vision for what a community could look like when they are released. So I know that was a lot. Thank you for your attention. I appreciate all of your engagement with it, and I'll open it up if anybody has questions.
Thank you so much, David. You're right. A lot of information, but a lot of fabulous information that I think given the kind of hiatus with COVID that has been going on in the prisons, it's great to actually get some current information with how things are going, especially with PFA. And I know PFA over the last few years had changed. I remember it was originally an 18-month, and then it transitioned to now you have a 12-month, but you do have a graduate program as well. So great to hear. So there are some questions in the chat. So maybe I'll just read those so that everyone hears them. Number one was, will you talk about your work with families of those incarcerated? So work that you or volunteers are doing with the families of the incarcerated individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. The primary way that happens is through a wing of Prison Fellowship called Angel Tree, which is individuals that are a part of either the academy program or incarcerated in general are given an opportunity to put their name in and the name of their kids and their family for Angel Tree, where it historically has just been a once a year engagement with local churches around Christmas time and being able to provide a present from mom or dad who's in prison to the family. But has really expanded to more of a year-long program around camping opportunities, around sports camps all around the U.S., where we partner with a number of professional sports teams that are running camps and a variety of things like that. So we're that tends to be the primary way Prison Fellowship is engaging with the families of those that are incarcerated.
Great, great. And I remember the Angel Tree program when it first got up and running, and what a blessing it is to those who are incarcerated to actually be able to share gifts at Christmas time with family. Karen Selby had asked a question about, could you provide a copy of the certificates that you use to recognize people doing good things? So both an empty one and an example of one filled out that you use to recognize actions and attitudes by those in the program.
Yeah, I would say if that would be helpful for somebody, feel free to shoot me an email at that email address there. I'd be more than willing to show you what we use. It is specifically connected with the Academy's core values, but certainly could be modified based on the setting and how that's being used. But absolutely, yeah, feel free to email me.
Great. I'm sure that'd be helpful. Interesting that some years ago, when the Department of Corrections and a lot of the community corrections agencies started looking at how they were supervising people on supervision in the community, and the focus of changing their work was really focused on forming positive or effective alliances with individuals that were assigned to your caseload. And part of the whole issue of switching to an evidence-based practices mode and using cognitive restructuring, which is exactly what PFA is doing with changing attitudes and orientation and positive role modeling, is really, I think a lot of corrections agents could spend some time with PFA and really improve and enhance their skill sets as well. But it is interesting that one of the factors that goes on in the evidence-based practices world is using positive reinforcement. And so for every negative or every interaction that maybe has some consequence, you should have at least 4 or 5 positive interactions and reinforcing good behavior and good attitudes with people that you're working with. And obviously PFA has been doing that for some time, so that's great to see. Another question is, do you work only with prisons, or do you have anything going on in county jails as well? And specifically, I'm sure in Minnesota.
Yeah. I mean, as far as running academies themselves, those are currently only happening in prisons. We historically we have accepted individuals who end up being housed in a county facility for a short amount of time or for whatever length of time, and still apply for the academy. They can get, at least historically, they've been eligible to transfer to Lino to do that. It's been a while since the DOC has been willing to do that, but I believe that's mainly a COVID related restriction. But as far as running the academies go, it's just within prisons at this point.
And I'm assuming that given the population decrease at Department of Corrections over the last couple of years, and I haven't looked lately, but they were down to around 7,200 persons incarcerated in the state's prison facilities, that there are very few, if any, housed out in county jail facilities anymore. They
Yeah.
used to have a significant number that were housed in local jail facilities. So,
Yeah, and
that-
it's an interesting combination too, because while the like Lino Lakes, for instance, is I mean, historically has housed 12 to 1,300 incarcerated folks, and is currently hovering between 900 and 1,000. So it's down a fair amount, but staffing shortages are pretty significant too. So it's I think it's that double-edged sword of, if the numbers went up, what would that how would the staffing work with that? So it's currently the numbers that are there are pretty appropriate for where the staffing is. That's for sure.
Okay. Another question that I have is, you mentioned volunteers not being able to come into prisons since the start of COVID, and you're hopeful that in the next few months that may start to change. So I guess a question would be, how have you been maintaining, your connections with volunteers? And I suspect, like everything else, things change, but what can these organizations that are online today, hearing your presentation, do to maybe help recruit additional volunteers? What are you looking for specifically? You mentioned a lot of volunteer hours going on in the evening hours. Maybe if you could provide a little information on that to the group, that would be helpful for them too, to get people connected with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. I mean, it's certainly been a challenge, because I think our strategy has been to keep our volunteer group at least updated monthly during the pandemic, of here's what we're seeing, here's what's going on in the academy. I think thankfully, in comparison with a number of states where the academies just totally went offline and shut down, there have been a few weeks long shutdowns at Lino Lakes where we haven't been able to run the academy, but for the most part, through the 18 months, it's been running in some way or another, and now is back up to the numbers where we were at pre-pandemic, at least with the number of participants that are here. As far as volunteers go, I mean, we are always looking at finding partner organizations that specifically connected with reentry, to be able to give lots of good opportunities for the individuals in our program to find community that is going to help them sustain the change and transformation that they've been really working hard while they are incarcerated. And so that's critical with a lot of partners that we work with, whether it's Freedom Works or Crossing Home, or I see Jesse's question on there about Teen Challenge, which historically has been a great partner of the Academy, and what Tom's doing with Veris. And so there's a lot of great partners, and the reality is there's always more people coming through than there are housing opportunities that are going to work well. So I think once we're able to bring volunteers back in and partner organizations back in, we're going to be really excited to do that. And then there's a lot of one-on-one mentoring opportunities that exist for individuals who are just wanting to engage with folks that are incarcerated once we're able to bring those folks back in, along with the volunteers that we have with Celebrate Recovery and our Tuesday evening groups. And so all of that, all those volunteering opportunities get filtered initially through our main website at pfm.org. So if you're interested, you can go to pfm.org. There's a volunteer tab on there. That's kind of the first step, which gives a much wider swath of all the different volunteering opportunities within prison fellowship as a whole, which the Academy fits underneath that.
Great. I think And I guess another question would be the the success rates for PFA are something that isn't always brought out, but I do know that a study was done. Department of Corrections' own research department did a study on PFA, and the results were clearly very positive for participants in PFA as far as reduction of recidivism, their connections with community supports, and their ability to move on with their lives was borne out by that study. And so I'm wondering, have you seen things change at all over the last 18 months? Given the limitations that have been placed on the program, or are you seeing, and I noticed you mentioned you had about 170 people involved in PFA at Lino, which is that an increase in numbers or a decrease in numbers? Just curious if you have some updated information in that area.
Yeah. So it's historically it would be a small decrease in numbers, and part of that is just a dynamic of kind of some inside baseball realities at Lino Lakes. There was a couple housing units where we used to have one whole housing unit and part of a second housing unit, and based on numbers inside the facility and staffing numbers, one of those housing units got shut down. And so we have one whole housing unit, which we have fully occupied now. So the numbers that are lower are really related to the number of graduates that we can keep in the housing unit still. Whereas before we were able to have quite a few more graduates, which allowed us to create more mentoring opportunities and at least smaller numbers for our graduates who are still incarcerated to be mentoring newer individuals coming in. And so now the ratios are just a little higher when it comes to that. And we also have around the facility another 70 or 80 graduates who are still at Lino Lakes, but are moved into a different program, which pre-COVID, those graduates were still coming to the Prison Fellowship building on occasion throughout the week, either for community events or Friday night worship service that we would do. And so the opportunity to connect that broader community, that's really been limited because there's no mixing of housing units at the facility for the last 18 months. So if you're in one housing unit, you're never going to be with somebody in a different housing unit. So that's limited what we can do, at least right now.
Okay, a couple other quick questions here from Jesse, who was a PFA alumni, was asking about being able to come in and as a guest speaker versus volunteering, and as far as what that requirement is for PFA and or possibly the prison, with people coming in either as a volunteer or just as a guest speaker.
Yeah, it's a good question. And to be honest, it's one we're trying to figure out what the distinction is from the DOC. Right now, the definition of who's coming in and who's not coming in is very much focused on professional visits, which are guest speakers. Right now doesn't count under professional visits, which also means like there have not been religious services happening from outside volunteers at the facility for 18 months. So it's, there haven't been, the chaplain here hasn't been able to bring in anybody for running a service, which is primarily based on the space they have. And if they were to run a service of some kind, it would need to be everybody would need to be given the opportunity to be at. And because we can't mix housing units, they would need to run the same service lots of times. And there's just the logistics of it just haven't worked. So if I had to guess, I think that by the beginning of 2022, we'll be at a place where we're going to be able to start bringing guest speakers in and volunteers back in, just based on what looks like the rollout of getting volunteers recertified. Because within Lino Lakes, our volunteers have to get recertified every 12 months. So everybody now is needing to get recertified. So that process is starting, which at least gives us hope that within the next few months, we'll be able to start getting that back online.
Okay. And then I see John Hulteen from Salvation Army. Salvation Army would like to connect with you. So hopefully, you know, because they have a great program there, and the ability for them to connect with you on people releasing from prison would be a great opportunity. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. I've spent many hours at the ARC in downtown Minneapolis, and I certainly love that place.
Great. If you could shut your screen down now, if everybody has the
Yep.
name and the contact information. And then what we can do here, what else did we have here? We had one other rewording of a question. How does a county inmate who is receiving a prison sentence apply for PFA? And can they apply to go there directly without going through, getting sent through what does it say, directly without going through getting sent to a prison? I suspect that means they obviously have to come to prison to be in the PFA program at one of the facilities. But I suspect looking at that, if they essentially don't come to prison, how could they connect with PFA?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what
I'm sorry, Karen, I saw you shaking your head. So maybe you want to unmute and ask the question. That would be much better.
Okay, if somebody is in a county jail and they're going to court, they're going to get their sentence.
Yep.
They know they're going to get a prison sentence. Can they apply to Prison Academy before they go and then get their sentence and get sent to St. Cloud or wherever they're going to go, and then applying to you? Can they do a more direct go from county jail to you?
I would say hypothetically that is possible. In reality, it's probably pretty unlikely, just because the DOC is almost always going to be sending guys to St. Cloud first for intake, and depending on where they're at, like where they're at in their sentence and how long they get. If somebody has more than 5 years on their sentence, we're not going to bring them into the academy, just because we have way too many guys applying that are much closer to release. So there's a number of factors. I guess I would say it's unlikely. It's not inconceivable that it would happen. It has happened. It's just unlikely.
Okay.
And I can maybe jump in a little too, because there are a lot of variables. They'll go to St. Cloud for receiving an orientation. They'll go through the classification process, which might result in them being placed at one of the facilities that does not offer PFA because of their security or custody classification. So it may take them some time before they can actually qualify to get to a facility that has the PFA program, whether it's Shakopee or, well, Shakopee is the only women's facility, so they would be there, but they might not be able to enter the program until they get to a certain stage of their custody and their classification, like David mentioned. So there are some nuances to that, some challenges.
Lino Lakes just takes medium security, correct?
Yes, that's correct. The only exceptions to that are if there are it primarily tends to be if there are lifers who their classification normally isn't going to change. And so the commissioner's office would specifically recommend them to come to our program, then they can get an exception for that.
Nice to know.
Yeah, but primarily it's going to be individuals that are at a level 3 within the Minnesota classification system. Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
yeah.
And I would
Just send
note
you an
that,
email, so we'll connect later.
and I would note that there are a lot of competing programs oftentimes. I mean, you have the Challenge Incarceration program. They're trying to get people into chemical dependency treatment, sex offender treatment, a whole variety of programs that has always been a challenge for the Department of Corrections is how do they sequence programming to get people the greatest opportunity to participate in programs, and continues to be a challenge for them. So
Yep.
I guess with that, I just want to say, everybody, if you want to give David a great round of applause, thumbs up. We really appreciate you coming, David.
You gotta unmute to hear it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you can also do the hand clap on the. I see Gabrielle has her hand up.
Oh, no, that was her hand clap.
That was a hand clapping. Okay. What was the sound of one hand clapping? Is that yeah.
Just my little hands clapping.
Well, and so what I would like to do too is to ask people if you have an announcement for your organization in particular, something new or an update that you want to share with the group in the last few minutes. I'd say please feel free to do so, and we can go around quickly, and anybody who wants to share some kind of an announcement, feel free to do so.
Yeah, this is Darren Hunt from Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge. Work with our alumni of our programs, and I think I had mentioned last time about a partnership we had with AmeriCorps to bring on a recovery navigator, and that's Jesse Kaplan, who's been here, who is an alumnus of PFA and then also of MNTC. He's serving a term with AmeriCorps. And part of that is to provide peer recovery services to those just wanting to strengthen their recovery capital, continue on in lifelong recovery. So he's definitely somebody that can work with any one of our clients, any capacity to help them get from point A to point B to continue to build more resources in that. It's been a good partnership so far with AmeriCorps. Of course, Jesse's great. And then we're actually able to bring on a female recovery navigator who will begin in November. So it's been a good program with them, and we're excited to see how that continues, as well as providing a couple jobs for our alumni as well.
Great, great.
John with the Salvation Army here. Hi, everybody. 900 North 4th Street in the Loop, North Minneapolis. We are about 70% into our building renovation. And by the end of January, our capacity will go back to 90. And then by May, the end of May 22, we'll be at 147 beds. So I'm always looking for an opportunity to share pictures and updates and accommodate tours if people want to see what's going on over here.
Great, John. That's really great to hear. We know it's been challenging times for you with all of the construction going on in the background, but we're looking forward to the additional resources.
Terrific. Can't hear the hammer drill right now, but I know it's coming.
Karen?
Anybody that is interested in praying for individual inmates that wants to contact us. We work mostly with counties. Let me know for that. And if there's anybody that is vaccinated that wants to volunteer, I have a lot of volunteers who are chomping at the bit to go back, but with the requirements for the vaccination, you know, I'll have maybe 4 out of 20 at a facility that are eligible. So different facilities that we're involved in, and everyone has a different caveat. So contacting me doesn't guarantee you a spot to get in, but it may open an opportunity.
Great, great to hear. And if you want to throw your contact information in the chat, we'll leave that up for a little bit, Karen.
Okay,
Then Mary Cardinal Peterson's over there raising her hand. Hi, Mary.
Hi, I just want to let people that are interested know that there is a legislative work group working on looking at changing predatory offender registration statutes. So there's a work group and they're divided into 3 subgroups, and all the meetings are open for public to watch. They're all online. And they try to save a little, the last 5 minutes of each meeting, that if a public person wants to make a comment or ask a question, they can. But all of them are recorded too. So if you're interested in that work group and what they're talking about, I'll put the link in the chat. And it's a good way, if you've never watched how government decides on changing laws, making laws, this is a really good way to just see how they do that in the discussions they're having. That's it.
Great, Mary. That's great. Yeah, throw that in the chat as well. And then real quickly, there are a couple of other things going on to make people aware of. We had reached out to MCA, to the executive committee, with the request that they consider putting together a committee for essentially faith-based nonprofits, organizations, and that they create a formal subcommittee for, essentially nonprofit and faith-based organizations doing reentry recovery work. We brought that to their executive board. They did agree that that was a great idea to actually have a formal committee through Minnesota Corrections Association as a platform for faith-based and nonprofit organizations. And so they are bringing that and putting it on their slate or their agenda at their business meeting at their upcoming conference. So we will see what the membership at MCA decides, but it might be a great opportunity for additional collaboration and working with the Minnesota Corrections Association and in this area as well. So hopefully that's coming up soon, and we're looking for a positive outcome there. And as we get more information, we'll be sharing it with everyone. I see John Henderson. You're not muted. Have you got anything to share?
Just want to get, I'm not sure, is this audible? Can you hear?
We can hear you.
Excellent. My first traveling Zoom meeting here in the passenger seat. Running a little behind for a day of prayer and fasting at the Gospel Tabernacle Church in Duluth prior to the Northland Reentry Gala tonight. Teen Challenges Duluth campus has its gala tonight, and we'll be in attendance and participating. So just keep things in prayer that we get done whatever God has for us as we head to Duluth today. So thank you much for everybody. David has a sweet spot in my heart. Going back to the days that I participated, I think it was about 10 years involving the Gateway program over at the Union Gospel Mission, and I'm glad to see him in his new role, and it's exciting to be reminded of what God has done and what he's doing, and praise the Lord for what he's going to do. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, John, and safe travels. I see Tom Lundquist is not muted, so maybe he's got a little something to share about Veritas, or?
Sure. Yeah. Just to update you, we've got 2 homes that we're working with, one in Golden Valley, a 6-bedroom home. We have several openings there on a bus line. And then we have a newer home in Roseville. And that one is got a little bit challenges with bus stuff, but we've got about 2 openings there. And so things are going well. And then we are building a team of mentors to come alongside men coming out of prison, and also working closely with John over at the ARC, Salvation Army. So we've got about 15 guys on our team. And and we're pairing up and mentoring men who were completing the program there. So, and it's not necessary that these men end up in our homes. We're just trying to be faithful to mentor them and help them succeed in their path. So wherever they go, whether it's on to their own apartment or the Lord may lead them, we're here to help support and provide a community to come around men.
Great, Tom. It was a little fuzzy. And so you do have openings both in Roseville and Golden Valley?
Yes, correct.
Okay, okay. So they can contact you if they know of people that are looking. So great.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all we have today. I did want to say too that Minnesota Adult Teen Challenge does have a training coming up for peer support specialists. It's November 1st through the 9th. Ben Stapp is the contact person there. I think it might be pretty full right now. I know we have some individuals going who are participating from R3, but I just wanted to make sure that people were aware it is November 1st through the 9th, and they could contact Teen Challenge directly, and Ben Stapp is the contact there. So thank you everyone for being here today. And again, thanks to David for updating us with PFA, and we look forward to, as the pandemic subsides, being able to do more of this face-to-face in the near future. So thank you. Everybody have a great day and a good weekend.